thanks everybody for being here. So these, yeah, I will talk today about what's been my experience last year, especially developing Plone, because I felt that I should share this experience because yeah, I wanted to tell people also how it was for me to go from being Plone developer to become Volto developer and Plone as well. So I want to talk about this today. So yeah, but in all the things that I had in my head that I wanted to talk about, then it was for me very difficult to find a proper title. So this is the title that I finally choose. So Plone Beyond 2020, jump into Volto today. But before reaching that, I was a mix of feelings, right? So I also considered that one. So where no Plonista has gone before. Also, resistance is futile, right? Because yeah, I'm such a freak of Star Trek. And, but also Hitchhiker Guides to Plone 6 and Don't Panic. But then I also had sometimes my feelings say, no, then why don't burn it all? Because at some points I also had that kind of feeling. So yeah, Dracarys. But finally, the good one that prevailed was like never give up, never surrender, and yeah, and surrender we did not, my friends, and that was mainly thanks to last year about all the Python 3 effort project, and I wanted again to stress that out, that thanks to everyone who made that possible, because if we don't have that, we won't be now speaking about this today. So, why should I jump? So we should jump, as I said, crap, do I have? Yeah, better. I didn't have my speaker notes here. Now all it's fine. So why should I jump? So I will try to explain the reasoning behind I think that you should jump like today. So yeah, and so behind that reasonings are that so I will start by asking myself, ourselves, questions. So what are the challenges for 2020 in the Plone community? So now we have Python 3 support, so yay. But then we have other challenges. So how about the user interface? How about the user experience? Right? And how about the developer experience, which is also very important because we have seen through all these years that that it's complicated for us to onboard new people, onboard newbies, right? So let's talk about all those things. So starting with the user interface, so spot the differences, right? Between both of you. So the first one is Plone 5.0, 2015, and the second one is Plone 5.2 in 2019. So I don't see much difference if I was a user. So I could ask. So okay, what you have been doing these last 4 or 5 years, right? And it's been any development, any evolved on that? So the answer is almost no, right? So it's something that we also should address something. The other day, Philip mentioned that probably we'll have to refresh Barceloneta and try to find another theme that is also updated and modernized to what's the new trends. So for example, normally nowadays, the websites are not that big in the main column, right? So it tends to be also narrower, and that improves also the user experience because the readability of that is better, right? And all those kind of things. And I have to mention that Albert Casado, he is not able to work to help us in the latest times, but he mentioned more than once that he wanted to develop another or think in another successor of Barceloneta theme, right? So we could ask him and try to invite him to some sprint for him to do that. So that could be something. So another thing, what I just said. So the classic Plone is UI is old, but the worst is that it feels outdated. It really feels outdated because, as I said, so normally nowadays the websites tend to be a little bit different. Then we have the user experience, right? The editing experience in Plone hasn't changed for decades, I will say. So the user, apart from talking about mosaic and editing experience like it, so the basic out-of-the-box editing experience in Plone also feels old. So the typical form when you modify each field or each content type, so also feels old, right? So it seems that we have to do something about it also. Also nowadays, the rich editors in content management systems, for example, in WordPress, are becoming also a trend, right? So WordPress got Gutenberg, and the first time that we saw, when we saw Gutenberg was, okay, yeah, feels like it's the next step. So where the CMS editing and authoring experience should go, right? So yeah, why not to take that trend also and apply it to Plone? Then more challenges that we have for 2020 is the developer experience. So we have a lot of technologies that we have in Plone in order to develop and theme Plone and customize Plone. So we have Diazo, Mockup, JBot. We have all the UI artifacts, views, viewlets, portlets, then all the syntax of those. So we need to know ZPT, XML, Z3, ZZML, XSLT for Diazo as well. So that's daunting for newbies, and we need to stress that up, and we need to fully embrace it, that it's true, right? So it scares people a lot when it approaches the Plone community, and we need to fix that somehow. And yes, I said, newbies' learning curve is steep. One can only use them in Plone, for example. I mean, yeah, you can use Diazo as XSLT out of Plone, but still, it's very difficult that someone has heard of it outside the Plone community, of that you can do that. And yeah, they are almost obsolete and maintained by us. And that's also an ugly truth, right? And we tend to forget about it, but it's true. We are a tiny community, as a lot of us already stressed out during these days, and we need something that is easy to maintain and not to put weight on our shoulders that we should maintain again and again and again, new things that we only are the ones who maintain that, right? And don't get me wrong, they were all outstanding technologies. When Diazo came out, everyone was cheering because it was really new and it was really powerful. And you all know what Diazo does and is able to do. And they made the difference back in the day, but it was its drawbacks, and yeah, probably we have to start to think about something else, right? And Plone has been ahead of its competitors because of those in several locations, but we need to move on, right, at some point. So another thing that I want to talk about is, during this last year, what customers have asked us during this last year, right? We've seen a trend that I wanted to show you. So they want nice and performance UIs, and normally they are kind of spoiled by the UI native applications UI story. So they want what they see in their phones, right? So they ask for a very specific, customized UI and your experience. And but last to the point that they want to remove a button from the editor because they don't use it at all. This is something that in Plone never happened to me until this year. So who asked for, no, I want you to remove the cut button because I never cut things? Or it's not true that didn't happen, but it's there. You can use it whatever you want. Yeah, but I don't want to use it. Okay, but then I remove it. So yeah, and that kind of things, right? And we need, they need also highly interactive and user-centered websites. And an outstanding authoring and editing experience because they already seen them elsewhere and also again in native applications, and they want the same experience, right? And then they also want a high-level customization, so they want that outstanding homepage that does things, that flies, things appear all of a sudden, and then animations everywhere and that kind of things. So yeah, we're almost in 2020, and customers then end up user expectations shift and have evolved, and we can sell things as it was 2010, and we should evolve as well. So yeah, one of the things that I also wanted to tell is one thing that happened to us this year. We because when people ask us, or when we went to show Plone, we had always this question, no? So what's Plone, right? And we went to, we organized a conference in Cologne early this year, and it was a React conference, right? And then Timo and I went to one of the panels, and then we showed Volto, because what else, right? And we started to say, yeah, this is Plone, and yeah, Plone is a CMS. And two people raised hands and said, yeah, well, what is a CMS? And Timo and I were like, what? You never heard the acronym? No, I never. But then a content management system, and the guy said, yeah, what? And and then we said, well, then you know WordPress? He said, yeah. Then like WordPress that. So, and that not only happened to one person, but nobody in the room knew what a CMS was. And then Timo and I was like kind of under a revelation, and we said, okay, then youngest people simply ignore what it is because they live with the concept like omnipresent. Now you go to the web and then you author things and then the things show. And also the oldest people also forgot what a CMS and what's the features, the advanced features that the CMS gives to you. And we were amazed because why, then we asked ourselves, why don't we take this as an opportunity and sell again what a CMS is? And when I say what a CMS is all the experience that we get over these 19 years and stress them out again like it was a new concept, a new idea. And then we start to ask ourselves, so okay, so if we had to sell Plone again, like if it was a new thing, then we will, and also of course, we wanted also to sell Volto, and then what are the things that are essential in Plone, and we should stress them out to our clients or to potential clients or to people for newbies and everything, right? And then yeah, we ask us this, no, really, what is Plone in 2020? I think that we can, Eric already said that during the keynote, And I think that also there is so true. So Plone is these four things. Yeah, Eric said it in another way, but for me, Plone is the content types, the hierarchy, the permissions, and the workflow. Permissions and workflow, of course, has security, but there are the things that we, if we have to cut everything else, that was, for me, it will be what Plone is, in the essentials, in the basic, in the fundamentals. Eric said, Plone the contract. I also, Plone the concept, the idea, the things that are irrepressible, that without it, it won't be Plone anymore. And we need to stress that things out, because as Eric said, implementations may change over time, but values don't. And this is a great truth. So nowadays we can sell Plone in these forms, right? And when I say Plone, again, I'm not talking about Plone, the application. I'm talking about Plone, the concept, right? Because we can sell nowadays Plone Classic, as we did the last 17 years. We can sell Volto over Plone REST API. We can sell Volto over Guillotina. We can get another front end and do the basic thing. For example, is a client that come and say, no, I want a news sticker, and I only want to create news and show them. I don't know, I don't even want a front end. Then you can build a front end in Angular or in Vue, and whatever you want that just do that thing, but talks to Plone REST API or to Guillotina or to any other backend that complies with Plone the concept. I mean, Plone the contract, right? Will it be Plone yet? Yeah, it will be, because it adheres to the contract, right? So, yeah, the idea of what is Plone and what doesn't just blur, right? And I wanted also to tell this, because it happened to me during this year that, yeah, are you doing Plone? No, I'm not doing Plone, I'm doing Volto, but yeah, I'm doing Plone. I mean, it's Plone, right? Volto, it's Plone, it uses Plone, it uses the same contract. We're using the same concepts that we got over the experience through doing content management systems the last 19 years, right? So what's the path to become a Volto developer? So, yeah, you have to learn how Plone REST API works. You have to play with it a bit, know what Plone is returning when you ask it for things. You are going to use probably, you're going to customize Plone REST API when you manage to get Volto projects using or modifying serializer, or maybe also the serializers. But anything else, normally you don't need anything else. You think you need to know how that works. On the React and JavaScript and Volto part, you need to learn React, of course. You need to learn ES6 or whatever is named now, because over the years it gets updated to the latest syntaxes and operators and things. You need to learn JSX, Redux, and React Router, and all the other technologies that are around Volto. And you need to learn Volto and how to extend that and how to do theming, right? And also how the JS ecosystem, NPM, Yarn, how node modules, how bundling works, transpiling, etc. But it's only yet to know how it works, because you are probably not going that down when developing for Volto. So what are the outcome of that? So you get a gentle learning curve for all this, because it's those are concepts that are well documented and you can learn easy, because there are also less technologies to learn. You can reuse that technologies outside Volto and Plone, because it's still React, and you could use it outside Volto in other projects, so you can reuse that. And you will be using React, and which is one of the major, in the IT industry, the major JS library for building apps. with everything that it implies. So, and it has a great ecosystem, and a lot of libraries, a lot of documentation. One thing that we still haven't done, but this is something that you could use. So you can reuse your code in React Native apps with a few modifications, right? And you could also, at the same time that you are developing for the web, you can also develop for a native app at the same time with the same tools, the same tooling system. Yeah, again, as I said, access to all the React libraries, plugin and tooling. And at the end, probably the most important is that you are using industry standards. You're using HTML, you're using CSS, you're using JavaScript, and you're using React. So that's the things that you need to know. So, Plone and Volto. As I said, when you develop for Volto, you are basically using these things. So we are not, in Volto, we are not using anything from the UI in Plone. So we can reduce what we do in Plone by saying that we are using the basic concepts. So we are doing content types, hierarchy, permissions, web workflows. We're doing generic setup for configuring things or configure Plone itself, or for example, default content or something like that. We are creating serializers, and these serializers, just in case that our views require a little bit more information than the one that Plone REST API is going to provide us. And we're also going to create custom endpoints, but just in case that we have or we have to develop a new feature, I don't know, for example, some stats feature that a page or a content type requires, right? And we need some process on the background, and then we have to get information from it. But it's not common. I mean, it's not strictly necessary that you're going to require that. And again, no Diazo, no ZPT, no JBoss, no mockup. So, how do I start to learn Volto? So, yeah. Easy, attend trainings, attend conferences, what you're already doing, seeing talks. Yeah, we've done a bunch of talks in Tokyo and during this conference as well. Documentation, there's still a lot of things, work to do in the Volto documentation, for example, but in the React part, it's plenty of documentation out there. You can start learning React right now. And one of the things that you should do is that you should find this one easy project that is not time constrained, that is easy, and that Volto can give all the requirements that this project has, right? Commit to that one easy project, go step by step, and go easy on it, and then, yeah, realize that yeah, what it's like to develop with Volto. I added this slide today because I also realized that people were also asking for it. So how resources do we have? What are the resources that do we have today? We have docs, voltocms.com, which is incomplete, and I'm sorry for that again, but we focused on the develop of Volto itself, and we put it in the front of other things like documenting, but we are going to address that, and don't worry about that. The information will be there, and probably during the sprint we're going to take a look at how to improve that situation. We have the Pastanaga icons here. This is a web that I did not a long time ago that showcase all the Pastanaga icons that you have and how to instantiate them using the icons component in Volto. And there's the Pastanaga style guide also, which is also important and to know how we intended to be the user experience in Pastanaga and how Albert told us to do it. So here we have screenshots, we have a lot of resources that will give you some hints on how to develop the user experience around Volto, right? And last but not least, there is a Zeppelin project. I don't know if you know Zeppelin is a website that allows you to export sketch files and Adobe, whatever, I don't know what it is, also that, and then you can see it via web and you can see the all the specifications of that UX. And there is a Zeppelin project for Pastanaga. It's yeah, private by default because Zeppelin works like this, but ask me for access. If you want access to that Zeppelin project, I can give you access, and you can see all the specs that I mentioned in the last URL in the last slide. So again, how to sell Volto? I will say that offer Volto first. So if you have a new client or an existing one even, so you say, yeah, you know what, yeah, there's this new thing, and show it. Just show it. I mean, is how it works. Timo is smiling here, and he knows well. So you go for on a client that has asked you for a Plone and say, hey, we have this new thing. And then they show how it works and how the Pastanaga editor works and the blocks and everything. And then they say, okay, yeah, I want this, I like this over what's standard Plone. And then yeah, you see all his requirements, and then yeah, it can happen two things: that the requirements fits completely in what's the feature set in Volto right now, then it's perfect. It can happen another thing, that the client asks for a feature that is not in Volto yet. Then you have two options. You say, okay, I don't have this feature, for example. We don't have yet content rules in Volto. All the UI and the endpoints are missing. But if the client asks for this feature that is not in Volto, you can tell them, okay, we have two options. Basically, we don't sell to you Volto, and then we go to Plone 5. But we also have another option. Say, okay, but I can still give you up to Volto, but this feature is not yet in Volto. But if you want to sponsor it, I can provide it to you. And this is how we thought that the things should go on from here, right? Because there's no feature parity yet. We will talk about that later. But we need to force ourselves to go for Volto first, and then if a client needs another thing, then work for this other thing happens finally, right? Do not hold ourselves to serve Volto because this client has asked something that is not yet in Volto. And as I said, it's just Plone. It has Pastanaga UI, it has the Pastanaga editor, it's flexible, it's extendable. It has batteries included because you can literally use any React library out there, and it's fast as the wind. And it's just better, I think. Maybe I'm biased by that, but whatever. So again, the main Volto selling points is the ticks that we missed in before. So we have a fresh interface and flexible. We have a new user experience that the users loved, and we have a new developer experience which is far less complex than in bare Plone, right? More selling points. These are the selling points from the user point of view. So the client. We have rich UI capability. We can do these animations that we talked before. The editing experience is awesome. It's outstanding. The flexibility, they can ask whatever they want because we have React at the end. And with React, you can do things more easy than you will have to do that in Plone. We can reach to native like UIs, right? If they ask for. We have blocks, which is, I think that's why it's in the center. I think blocks is the main game changing. And we have also real-time previews in those blocks. We have an outstanding performance as well. enforce it style guide. And it's highly interactive, so you can build interactive UIs out of it. Regarding the selling points for developers, yeah, we're using semantic UI and the theming engine, which I think that is good. And you can also not use it and go for your own styling for your own components, right? Still. And it's easy prototyping, because another thing that is very interesting in Volto is that you can build a site out of a mockup that the designer or the designer agency gives you. And then you can use that mockup to build a static site in React and show the client how it will look like right away. And then lately, you can then wire things into that static prototype, and you don't have to do basically anything because it's all React, right? And yeah, you have, as I said again, all React and its ecosystem of libraries and components and everything. You have also the front-end server-side rendering, which I think, and yeah, some of you already know, I think that's our secret weapon, and will be the secret weapon the next years on. And then we have the documentation for all the React part. Again, sorry for the state of the Volto documentation, but that will change soon. Then, what's new in Volto 4? Tiles are gone. So we are now calling them blocks, and I can't stress that out. Blocks, right? And I find myself saying tiles a lot of times. But yeah, as Timo said before, we want to move away from the tiles concept, because a tile is something more atomic and something that you could, for example, in Mosaic, move around the screen. And then we thought at some point that giving the free will to the user to do so only leads to ugly sites. And that's an ugly truth, but it is also true. And yeah, if you have some power user, of course, there are use cases that is right. But nowadays, also the websites are also one column with site-to-site elements, and inside that site elements, there's columns inside, and the content disposition in those elements are variable, but there are that constant that is that block that comes from side to side, and then inside that block things happen, but you have that minimum layout element as well. So it turns out that for us it worked quite well, and we never need the thing to move things around and things like that and allow people to do so. And people are still super happy about their blocks. You have more control over how that blocks behave in responsive. So because one of the things that are difficult in Mosaic is that tile that you have moved to that row, is that row the one that you want to in responsive to behave like the way that you are intended to or not? And that was also a pain point. And yeah, and let's see some demo. But I have to say that, yeah, a lot of people already spoiled me on that. So yeah, let's see it. So I wanted to show Plone.com, but as you could say, it's not Plone.com. It's the Volto version that we did for the training. So yeah, you could see that we transform these blocks that we have in Plone.com, because we can map the sections in the homepage of Plone.com directly to blocks, to the blocks concept, and then build the homepage out of those blocks. We developed in the training the two above, but we could easily add new ones. This is the teaser grid block that Tim already showed you. Timo didn't show you this, it's quite cool. So you can reorder the columns Of course, what else? I mean, and then, yeah, we have what we call the teaser here. We added these templates because we thought that, Albert thought that at some point we can have this templating system that you have the variation of the tile that you directly are willing to set in your page, right? Those are the variations of the hero tile. And finally, yeah, you have the listing tile that by default is the what's inside. But we can also set up the query for what's inside, and we can search for the success stories, and we can use both. We can use two. This is something that Timo didn't show. You not only are constrained to have one listing tile, which is what will be the default functionality in Plone, in the collection of content type, but you can have several of those or thousands. I mean, you can use whatever, how much listing tags you want, right? And you can do this kind of powerful things because it's React, because that's a component that does that, the reordering. So you only have to instantiate it. It works right away. It works. The same for drop zones. We have an image grid tile. Each element of the image grid tile, which are images, supports drag and drop of images. And set that up is super easy because you only have to go to how the component is done and how it works, and then make it work with your React code, because it's just React. So doing that outstanding experience, especially on the editing of blogs, is rather, yeah, it's nothing out of this world, right? You can do it because it's only React. And again, I wanted also to say this, that we should stick and commit to Pastanaga UI philosophy. So especially when developing those kind of editing experience and designing the experience for the edit block components, right? So it should be appealing. It should be had a good user experience, and the user should feel right. I mean, while using it, and we have to take this small UX designer that is in every inside of us and bring that up and say, no, I will make the UX the most important feature of this site. And as I said, especially when designing new blogs and new editing experience, because it's what the user is going to touch, is going to feel, right? And for that, we have the Pastanaga style guide, as I said before. And if you have any doubt on how to design that experience, you should maybe inspire in what Albert did for us. It worked for me, so, and I'm not a user experience guy, expert at all, but yeah, it's what it worked for me. So yeah, we should be the guardians of Plone and Volto UX and watch for it and commit to see it fulfilled every project that we do. And quick. Now what we have in Volto 4. Now it's currently in Alpha 9. So improvements to the blocks engine. One of the main things is that each view and edit component in a block now can be simple components. So a component with an hello world is enough. And before that, for the editing components, were required some boilerplate, but now all of those are transferred to the engine. Then the new toolbar that you have already seen, the new sidebar for configuring blocks, because we felt also that putting too much things in the middle to configure the blocks will also bloat and block the view of what's the outcome, and then that will hurt the real-time experience. So we create this sidebar, and for me, I think it's a great addition, and I'm totally sold to it. And the new object browser. We have now an object browser for browsing objects in the site and select for teasers, for images, For links, someone asked for how to link an image, and now we can link images and also and other things using this new object browser. And what's left to do? So I will say, maybe I'm wrong. We have to do that more in a more accurate way. But I will say that Plone feature parity is at 75%. So we have a conference sprint, and what's the goals in that sprint? So I think that this will be nice to have, and probably we will stick to it. So resolve UAD support, sidebar support for existing blocks, the plugin architecture, the code splitting support, dates widget, reference widget. Yeah, as you can see, there are still some points to improve. Guillotina branching in actions and reducers, well, and a lot of and a long list that should be addressed. So please, if you want to join us, do it during the sprints, and we will be more than happy to onboard you. And finally, I put this image not because it's just, it's Keanu Reeves, and it's always nice to put Keanu Reeves in a slide. But also, you remember the end of Matrix. I just wanted to say that what the movie says, that I know you are there. I can feel you now. I know you're afraid. You're afraid of change. And I don't know the future, but I didn't come to tell you how is this. I didn't come here to tell you how this is going to end. I came here to tell you how it's going to begin. So don't be afraid. Go for it. And yeah.
So we have time for some questions. As ever, wait for the microphone.
Speaking of developer experience, I personally hate JavaScript completely, but is there a way to use TypeScript in a reasonable way in React? Is this doable, or is it just transpile your own TypeScript code into React JavaScript code?
There is, of course, there is a way to use TypeScript, and a lot of developers are doing that in React. However, we still don't set that up in our build. So we have our build, how Volto is built. We are using a boilerplate that is called a Razzle. Razzle itself allows you to use TypeScript, but then everything should be TypeScript, right? I don't know, we haven't tried. There is a way to mix things so you can have Volto source, which is not TypeScript, and then in your code use TypeScript, but I don't think that it will be that hard. It's something that we have just to explore, right? Yeah. There is a reason behind that we still didn't use TypeScript, because we had experience before also with Angular. And Rob, when he started with Plone React, he also thought that maybe adding another layer of complexity on the top of Volto, it won't be maybe the best idea. And we also thought so we finally went for plain ES6. But yeah, we can improve that at some point in the future, or change to TypeScript if TypeScript takes over the world or something. But yeah.
Are there any plans to improve the feedback to the user? Because sometimes the front end can lose the connection with the back end, and you don't know. I mean, like portal status message, or I don't know.
Yeah, we are aware of that, and several people also tell that to us. And yeah, I guess there's an easy way to do so, and at some point being more. Being able to tell the user what's going on, or if the backend is down or whatever. But we are not doing that now. But yeah, it will be not difficult to do so. But we know that's lacking. Yeah.
Thanks, guys, for your great work. I am looking forward to a future with Volto. I think it will be a good future. And in this spirit, I have a question that is maybe a little bit nitpicky, but I'm just wondering, you know, you guys are walking around with T-shirts with Volto on the back, and you're using the word Volto, the name Volto, a lot, as if it was like a different product. Like, go out and sell Volto. I mean, but in the end, it's Plone, because without Plone, you can't have Volto, right? So, what's the idea behind it? I mean, are you planning on renaming Plone to Volto, or what's the whole idea here?
No, I think that's why in my presentation I also wanted to stress that out. So Volto is Plone. I mean, it's just a way of naming it. We had to name it somehow because Plone React was a little bit awkward. And yeah, we decided on Volto 1 year ago, and we are happy. We are not that we think of it of a parallel brand or something, because it's like Guillotina, right? What's Guillotina? I mean, why? I mean, or something that I missed to say during the talk. Pyramid it's an unopinionated framework, but it could behave, or you can make it behave like Plone, and it can have content type, it can have permissions and hierarchy, because you can put the traversal on it. It's not that Plone. I mean, you could make a clone on Plone REST API in Pyramid, right? Or I don't know, or in Haskell, I don't know, whatever. But as long as it adheres to this Plone contract, it will be Plone, right? I mean, we aren't just naming things. And for me, I don't know if it's the idea of it's a wide accepted idea. All those kind of things are what's going to be Plone in 2030 and beyond, right? I mean, Volto is nothing different than Plone. It serves Plone, it uses Plone, and it is Plone at the end, right?
I have one question myself. I'm a simple person, but I've never been able to deploy a site without some form of forum generator, Plone Forum Gem, Easy Forum. I always need it. Is that on the radar, or?
Absolutely, yeah, it is. And we have a project will start next year that is main feature, and we are going to do that, what I told you during the talk, right? So the client needed that, and he's going to sponsor it. So we're probably what could happen, because we still haven't thought it thoroughly yet, but probably we won't use neither Easy Form or whatever. We are probably going to use another kind of backend for that, but then it will become available in Volto and in Plone as well. So it's